Hi, everyone. I wanted to share this therapy slide deck that we have on the OT Toolbox. So many years ago, you probably remember when the whole world shut down and therapy providers had to move into online interventions. They had to work with their kiddos on their caseload over the computer via Zoom or Google Meets or some other manner of completing teletherapy services for occupational therapy and physical therapy and speech therapy, as well as pretty much every other thing that happened. It was all online, right? Well, that was what started these therapy slide decks that we created on the OT Toolbox. But over the years, we've seen that these slide decks have continued to be used over and over again by therapy providers who work in teletherapy. They work with kids all over the state that they're in, or maybe even the country if the therapist is licensed in various states, and they use our therapy slide decks to just kind of like an outline for therapy services. So anytime that an occupational therapist in particular works with a child on their caseload, they will work on individualized goals. They're working on what is important to the child, what the team has determined which includes the parents, the therapist, the child, um, anyone else that is involved in that therapy plan. They all work together to come up with goals that are appropriate for the individual child's needs. So when the therapist works with a child, they will work on those specific goals. However, therapy providers have full caseloads and they have a lot going on in their day, not a lot of planning time to come up with activities. So, one way that therapy providers support the kids on their caseload and manage these enormous caseloads is by using activities that can be broken down and used based on the needs of the child, but they're using a theme. They're using a set of activities that maybe, one craft that works on several different areas, goal areas, but when they work with each child, they're individualizing it. So they're making it support the areas that that child needs to work on. So, getting through all of that, the reason I'm telling you that is because that's why we created these slide decks. They are kind of like an outline for therapy where you can use the activities in the slide deck. You can expand on specific activities, or you can skip some if it's not appropriate for the child that you're working with, or you can make something else, expand on this. Just make something else happen in the therapy session to meet specific goals. So anyway, because knowing all that, I wanted to show you one of our therapy slide decks. This one is the football theme, and it's great for this time of year because if you have kids that are watching football, they've seen football games every week. That's the season right now. But then come like around February when there's the big game at the end of the season, this is another time that this slide deck is pretty popular on our website. So let's go through this and I will just show you how you can use the slide deck in your therapy sessions. And I wanted to also show you that you can use this right on the video. So you can pull up this video if you're working with a child at home, or if you wanted to provide the child and the family with a home program, shoot them a link to this YouTube video and they can work through the video, follow the instructions, and complete the activities. So let's get started. The first one in our slide decks is usually an agenda or a table of contents based on what we'll be doing in this particular slide deck. So for this football activities, we're going to be doing a warm-up, then we'll do a fine motor activity, a handwriting activity, a visual activity, a gross motor task, and then a cool down. And that cool down includes a self-regulation component so that the child can kind of check in and see how they're feeling after they've done these activities. You can also do a beginning before the activity, before the whole session, do a check-in with self-regulation curricula. The first warm-up is just kind of like an eye-hand coordination activity. So depending on the user's capabilities, so you might use this slide deck right on Google Slides, which if you do, it's great because we've made some interactive components here. So you can see that I'm clicking on this football and then I can drag it with my mouse along the line. I can move it anywhere on this slide deck, but the goal here is to follow the directions. And this part of the warm up is a self regulation, deep breathing strategy. We're going to move the football along the arrows and take deep breaths in and out as you do. So, this whole line, all the way over to the goalpost, you're going to move this football right along that line with your mouse as you breathe in. So that's a nice, long, deep breath. And then you're going to come down to the next line and breathe out. So that's a nice, long, deep breath back out. So you can see how this kind of helps to improve your coping strategies. You can calm down. It's a really great way to give a child or anyone really a tool to calm down, to cope with their strategy, their worries or their stressors, to just support their needs when it comes to their self-health and self mental health. So you'll have 2 deep breaths in and then 2 deep breaths out. Breathe in, breathe out. After that slide deck, you probably will feel yourself just calming down a little bit. Those deep breaths are very effective, and it doesn't take much to feel the results of deep breaths. That's such a wonderful tool to have in your toolbox. And even just working on this slide in particular is such a calming strategy. So even if you just come onto this video, don't even worry about grabbing the slide deck from Google, which we have it on our website. That's how you'll get it, which I'll tell you more about that towards the end of this video. But if you just come onto this YouTube video and just use your finger or point or, even just follow the lines with your eyes and follow that visual line as well as the directions. Breathe in as you move across this line. Take a nice long deep breath in. Even pause at this goalpost for a second and hold that breath, that deep breath in your lungs. And then breathe out a nice long deep breath out over to this one. Breathe in and breathe out. Even just following this with your eyes is such a visual tool, and it really supports your calm, centeredness, mindfulness. It's a wonderful coping strategy. So after you've completed this warm-up, you can move on to the next slide in the slide deck. We're getting started right away with fine motor here. You'll need your hands, paper, and a cup. So we try to come up with something that most people will have in their home. Everyone's got their hands on them all the time. There's some form of paper. You can find some junk mail. You can find old homework papers that are not needed anymore. You can find anything, an old magazine, something that just came in like a flyer in the mail, and then any container. It doesn't have to be a drinking cup. It can be any type of container. Even just draw a circle on a piece of paper, and there's your target. So what you'll do is go through the next pages on the slides and follow the instructions with the numbers that you see. And each slide, as we move on, you'll see that there's a number on each slide. So you'll look at that number, tear off paper into that number of pieces, and roll that many pieces of paper into little crumbled balls with your fingertips. This activity is so great because it strengthens the hands. It really targets the palm, the intrinsic muscles in the hand, the arch development in the palm of the hand. It improves opposition with your thumb and your fingers. It helps you to get the separation of the sides of the hand. So the precision side of your hand, which is your thumb, your pointer finger, and your middle finger, are working to roll that piece of paper into a ball. And the strength side of your hand, which is the pinky finger and the ring finger, are tucked into the palm and stabilizing the hand. So as you're crumbling that paper, you're really increasing the strength in the fingertips in the hand. This is a great warm up, actually, for handwriting, which we'll move on to next after this task in the activity. So then, after you've crumbled up that many pieces of paper, you'll use tongs or tweezers or sticks or even just your fingertips to put those number of rolled up pieces of paper into the cup or into the circle or into some kind of target. You're using, again, whatever you've got in the house. If you don't have anything like this, if you're working in a situation where there's practically no tools available, you can just use your fingertips. Put them into the containers by scooping up all of the little crumbled balls and putting them in one at a time with a specific target, with a specific number of crumbled up pieces of paper that you're putting into the container. There's so many ways that you can make this work that targets hand strength, targets visual motor skills, and uses whatever you've got in front of you. So that's the nice thing about this. Okay, so we'll go on to the next slide, and this is where you'll see the number that I was talking about. Okay, it says move 4, and then you have a goalpost over here. And then you'll see a pile of footballs down here. When you scroll over this on the Google slide deck, you'll see that these are movable. So you're going to have the child or the individual look at the number here and grab that number of footballs and move it through the goalpost. So again, you're using the mouse on your keyboard to click on these individual footballs and move them. You're encouraging hand-eye coordination. You're encouraging finger isolation, fine motor skills, attention, visual tracking, because as that football moves, you can click on it and move it all at once, but you can see that the mouse is moving. You can see it moving across the screen. Or you can ask them to move it just bits at a time, so it slowly moves across. And this visual tracking or visual scanning skill is such an important component to functional tasks like reading, writing, all sorts of daily activities that we complete each day where we're scanning our environment for items or objects or people and have to follow that visual cue or pick it out of a crowd. All of that visual perceptual skills is part of our day on a daily basis. Okay, so then after you've moved those footballs, then you can move on to the crumbling paper where you tear off, okay, I see 4 here. I'm going to tear off 4 pieces of paper and put them into my target. Maybe you even want to draw a field goal on the piece of paper and flick those pieces of paper into the goal area. So there's so many ways, like I said, that you can customize this to meet the needs of the individual kid. So then you can put these footballs back, or you can just leave them there. The next time you use this slide deck, they'll be where you left them. Then there's several more slide decks that you see over here with different numbers. The next one is 10. That's a big one. There's a lot of footballs down there that you'll move. Then there's 3, and then there's 6. So there's 4 different repetitions of this task. You can do 1, you can do all of them. If the individual you're working with really likes this activity, do them all, do them again. You can even expand on it, make it a writing prompt of some sort, or do more fine motor work if that's what needs to be targeted. There's so many ways you can work this. Okay, Next, remember our agenda, we had vision next. This is an I Spy activity. However, it also has a lot of different aspects of visual perceptual skills going on. We've got visual figure ground. So you're looking within this giant background of all these different footballs to find one individual shape. So you're going to see this one here and then try to count how many footballs do you see in this grid. Then you can click here and write in the number. Okay. Each one of these boxes has a clickable and editable, you know what I'm saying, where you can type in that box and write the number. So you'll just click here, see the cursor, and then press the number. So this one you can see it has the football going this direction. There's another one here where it's going this direction. So we're working on a lot of different visual perceptual skills here. There's a lot of intricacies, a lot of details to notice. This one is the same football, but it's rotated. So there's a lot of visual discrimination tasks going on here. The therapists working with specific needs can expand this. They can use another writing prompt to work on handwriting. They can work on number formation on paper. They can have the child write out numbers to work on those skills. Just expand it based on the child's needs. Okay, next, because so many of our therapy providers are working in schools and have handwriting goals, there is a writing prompt next. This one, you'll need just a piece of paper and a pencil. Pick one of the writing prompts below and then complete the sentence. Place the check mark in the box next to the writing prompt that you will use. So you can see that this check mark here can move. You can move it down here and select this writing prompt, or you can move it down here and select the second one. So you give the child that you're working with or the individual some choice here. They can pick whichever one they want. Maybe they're going to choose the shorter one because less words, less writing. That's okay. Maybe they're going to choose this one because they think coming up with a football team and a mascot would be fun. Either way, they are coming up with words on their own, but they're also copying some words here. So this is a great therapy task because you can have the child or the student copy from a near point to a far point where their paper is in front of them on the table, and they are shifting their vision from the paper to the screen, to the paper to the screen as they're copying. So they'll have to copy this sentence, making sure that they don't skip any letters, that their words are spaced correctly as they are here with spaces between the letters and then bigger spaces between the words. That visual shift is a really important part of handwriting. Then when they come up to the blank here, they can fill it in with whatever they desire because they're using their creative thought, their creative thinking, but they're writing it onto paper. So on the OT Toolbox, we have several blog posts and a lot of information on near point copying skills, where the student will copy from paper, copy from some sort of visual prompt onto paper with near shift. So they're not moving their eyes very far. They're not looking across the room where the eyes have to refocus based on the distance. And it's just a near point. So this is a great starting point. You can always grade this harder and make it more difficult for the individuals by moving the screen farther away. Maybe you put it up on a smart board across the room, or maybe it's up on a TV screen. So then if it's positioned farther across the room, you're working on far point copying skills, which is more challenging for visual attention and visual memory. So this is another one that you can really use what you've got, use the child's individual needs, and target those skills. Next in our slide deck, we have gross motor activities. We wanted to come up with something to give the child a brain break. Okay, so They've done some screen work. They've moved their mouse. They've worked those eyes a lot with the last few slides. They've worked their fine motor skills, and they've done some handwriting. So now is a great time in the therapy session to just restart the motor skills with a brain break. Now, if you are using this YouTube video as a brain break, this is a great point to start. And you can start with these gross motor slides. So the first one, you're going to hold a real football or pretend to hold a football and copy the picture. You can see that this person has the football above their head. They have their head leaning back, and they have one leg behind them on their toes and the other leg in front of them flat on their feet. Hold that for a certain amount of time. Just pick a number. Maybe you want to hold it for 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. Maybe you want to say the ABCs or spell a word. You can even include music and make it like stop the music and then assume the next position on the next slide deck. The next one, we have, again, holding a real football or pretend to hold a football and copy the pictures. You can see that this person is holding the football above their head, both arms stretched up. They're standing nice and tall with a nice tight core section. So they're standing up nice and straight. They have one leg down and their other leg in that yoga tree position where the foot is flat on the upper thigh. Try to keep that foot up high to encourage more balance and coordination. Next, we have, you're going to put that football, real or pretend, down on the floor and stretch down toward your foot. You're really going to stretch that middle section so that your head is in line with the floor. You can see that it's straight across and parallel to the floor, but you want to get it into that different position. You're really encouraging some vestibular input here because you're no longer in the straight up and down plane. You're now your head and your ears, which houses that vestibular sensory system, is in a different plane. So this is a great one to really get that body moving. You can even switch to the other side and put the football on the other side and stretch over to the other side. Next, we're going to take some nice calming breaths. Get down on the floor with your legs across, crisscross applesauce position, and hold like a ball or a pretend ball right in the middle. Sit up nice and tall. Do some deep breaths. Breathe in and breathe out as you're maintaining your position. You might notice if you've sat in crisscross applesauce position before or for very long that it gets uncomfortable. That's because you're really stretching those legs, you're stretching your back, and you're putting a lot of work into your core muscles. It kind of gets uncomfortable, right? You kind of want to tilt your hips back and slouch, but try to hold that up and strengthen that midsection. And then finally, we have another one where you're in a sitting/kneeling position. You're going to put one leg in front of you, flat on the floor, and the other behind you, resting on your knee and with your feet pointing straight out behind you. You're going to, again, lean back with your hands up overhead. Notice that head is no longer in the straight up and down position. It's leaning back towards that football. So that's another great getting out of that straight up and down position and just moving that head in the body. Okay, so that's all of the gross motor activities. So if you want, you can go through that again. Just rewind this video and go back to the first one, pause it on each video, on each image, or use the slide deck that we have on the website, and you can make your own copy and go through this at the speed that you like. You can go through it as many times as you like. Next, and this is the final one, you can see, this is that self-regulation check-in that I was talking about. So we have, how do you feel today? Drag the football to describe your feelings. So if you're familiar with some self-regulation curriculum out there, you'll notice the colors, you'll notice the words, you'll notice some of the phrases. However, this can be used to describe any emotion, any feeling. And we want to instruct our kids and tell them that no matter what feeling that they are feeling that particular moment of that particular day, it's okay. And that is not defining who they are or even how their day is. It's just that particular moment right now. So, having this at the end of the slide deck is nice because they've just done some heavy work. They've done some deep breathing. They've done some movement. They've gotten that head and body moving in different positions and had a lot of input to the body by positioning. They've done some heavy work with their fingertips, their fingers, with the fine motor work, some handwriting. So how do they feel after all of this? Maybe proud. Maybe that was hard. Maybe I don't really like that because it was so hard. Whatever that is, this is a good time to talk about that with the child and then come up with some coping strategies if they need to. So you can have the individual click on this football and move it right over to define how they're feeling at that particular moment. I do like to include this slide deck sometimes for some of the individuals at the beginning. So when you are going through these slides with your student, you can start off and just scoot right down to the bottom and do this one. Then go back up, work through the agenda, and then once you've done all of the tasks, depending on the individual, finish with this because maybe they'll be feeling a little bit different than they felt at the beginning. Maybe some of those exercises or the deep breathing really helped them. And bringing it back to what we said at the beginning, it just depends on the individual client, the student, and what their needs are. Maybe you're going to skip some of these slides and you're just going to do the self-regulation and the deep breathing, and that is completely fine. And then that is the end of the therapy session. Sometimes kids love to see that all done, great job slide at the end because they're done, they did it, and they worked so hard. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope it has encouraged you and inspired you with some therapy activities that can be individualized depending on the needs of each client. So if I told you at the beginning that we have these slide decks on our website, this is one of the many free resources that we have on the OT Toolbox. And when you sign up to get this free slide deck, you'll get an email that has a link which prompts you to make a copy onto your own Google Drive. So once you click that link, you will then have this slide deck on your Google Drive. And that's really nice because you can use that slide deck in any setting from any device as long as you're logged into your Google account. So I will put the link to the blog post down below in the comments. And if you would like to get a copy of this, just click on that link and then go to the bottom of the blog post and enter your email. We deliver everything through email because we found that so many therapists need to access the materials from different devices. Maybe they need to access it from their phone so that they can print it from a specific printer. Or maybe they move from school to school and they don't always have their desktop available and they need to use any device. So that way, if they're entering their email, they can access that material from any device and print it at any time. So when you go to the blog post, like I said, enter your email into that form at the bottom, and then you will receive an email with this resource in it. And if you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments below. You can also email us at the OT Toolbox. We can help you walk through some things. If you have any trouble, just let me know. And that's it. All done for today, and great job. Be sure to stay tuned because we are planning to do more videos like this. I really want to make this accessible. so that maybe you just want to use the YouTube video. Maybe you just want to go through the video and follow the slides, pause it when you want, use the deep breathing video, just use those visuals right there. They're done, they're in front of you. So I hope that's helpful. If that's something that you think would be helpful, let me know. Let me know in the comments, because we have so many of these slide decks, and I can start putting these all up so that they're accessible for everybody. So that's all for today. I hope this is helpful. Bye.